Hi there, my name is Seth Grossman, and for this video, I'm going to be talking about business communication in Israel and how you can improve your communication in many different ways. The first thing that I want to talk about is the cultural differences between Israel and the United States. The best way to represent an Israeli is in comparison to a sabra fruit. In the picture on the right, we can see that a sabra fruit is the prickly fruit bits of the cactus that grows throughout the Middle East. Now, this is to say that Israelis are tough on the outside, but on the inside, they're pretty sweet. So, Israelis may come off as blunt, direct, enthusiastic, or sometimes even angry, but most of the time, this is just an image that they put up. When you get to know Israelis better, they're very kind people. They like to have a lot of friends, and as long as you get to know someone well enough, you get to see that side of them. Next, I'm going to talk about nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication in Israel is huge. People move their arms and hands around a lot. They gesture in many different ways to represent their emotions, and it can be intimidating from an outsider to strike up a conversation with an Israeli. Well, they're rather loud and they move around a lot, so it's easy to kind of get confused. But an Israeli will really respect it if you make direct eye contact with them and expect them to get a bit closer than you might with your peers in the United States. Next, I want to talk about religious differences. Now, Israel has all three major Abrahamic religions. We have Judaism, Islam, and Christianity all working together within Israel and living alongside one another. For that reason, English isn't the primary language. We do hear a lot of Hebrew and Arabic, and most of the people do speak English. And because of these religious differences, things might be closed at different times than you expect them to be. For example, the Jewish holiday season takes place throughout September, where they have the high holidays such as Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. During those days, the country is closed down, much like we see in the United States around Christmas time, when people are expected to have days off. I want to show you this chart to show something that's unique to Israel. Now, during the day-to-day goings and comings of people in Israel, the economy is open from Sunday until about midday Friday. That's because on Friday and Saturday are the Jewish holidays of Shabbat. Now, during this time, Israel is practically closed down. Public transportation is not running. Most shops are closed depending on location, and it's generally a time where everyone takes a break. Now, as we can see, this isn't the case all over the country. In places like Jerusalem, it's more common for businesses to close completely, but in Tel Aviv, where it's a bit more secular, you're going to have restaurants and businesses that are operating normally. As we can see, the divide between who wants these businesses to stay open and closed fall upon how strictly some observe their religion, with those from the Orthodox supporting a complete closure and those who are secular opting more towards a open economy such as we see in the United States. Next, I want to talk about relational differences. So the first thing that I have to bring up is Shabbat, as we can see, is a major difference from how the world works in America. We usually have Saturday and Sunday off, or you might be working a different job in America, but on Sundays you are expected to go to work and be there early in Israel. In this environment as well, the temperature can be pretty hot in certain areas, so clothing is not as strict. Some people will wear suits and ties, but it's not uncommon to see people in jeans or button-down shirts that are less formal, but still in a business setting. We'll also see that religious women of both Jewish and Islamic faiths tend to dress more modestly, depending on how closely they follow their religion. And it should come as no shock that even some of the men do dress up in those black and white suits with the black hats. So, in a business standpoint, all of this is a bit different. We can see that negotiation is very important in Israel. If you're talking to your boss, if you're talking to a potential uh, employer, anyone, you're going to be doing a lot of negotiating. Even in a grocery store on the side of the road, you might be able to haggle down your bill a little bit. And because of this, negotiation and talking in general being so highly regarded, direct communication is very important. And on a more technical aspect, we see that fax machines are still used heavily in Israel. So if you have to get some important documents, maybe it's going to come through the fax or the email. So Israel also has a few legal and ethical differences. And that's not to say that they don't hold our same morals, but it's just a bit different. In Israel, they don't have a constitution or a federal government, but that's not to mean there is no law. There is definitely common law there. But we'll also see that the country has had a lot of corruption at its higher levels in both government and slightly in business. And because of this, comparing the way businesses are run to an American company, we'll see that there is less transparency about what the business may be doing or what your role inside of it is, but there's a big emphasis on success and going out and trying. So, more on corruption because it's pretty important to understand coming from an Israeli standpoint. Many Israeli prime ministers have been indicted or charged or have had criminal proceedings brought against them due to corruption. We can see with Prime Minister Netanyahu in the 90s, he was investigated for fraud, and currently he is being investigated for corruption due to taking bribes or doing favors for people. This is also the case for Prime Ministers Ariel Sharon and some local government people such as Ehud Olmert, who was the former president of Jerusalem, but then used his power in the government to make a little bit more money on a building project in Jerusalem. And these are my references. I hope you've learned a lot from my presentation. I hope you have a great day. Thanks so much.